Welcome in here, VSiN at the track, presented by First Bet Racing. I am Mike Somich. He is Aaron Halterman, and we've got a show that's going to be packed from gate to wire, Aaron. A bunch of stakes to talk about. We got Santa Anita back. I love my California racing back, and I don't love Los Alamitos. We'll talk about that a little bit later. We've got a new bet from First Bet as well that I'm excited to talk about and talk through with you because it's something that we talked about with the cause before, the CAWs. Well, We've got an answer, a response from it, at least from First Bet here. Also have to recap last weekend. Phenomenal weekend of racing. We got Baeza in the Penn Derby. We got Haulin Ice, who somehow goes off at 5-2. That was pretty incredible. And we got race previews from Belmont at the Big A, Churchill Downs, and Santa Anita, as well as some best bets covering both Friday and Saturday racing from some of those tracks. So absolutely loaded show, Mr. Halterman. How we doing on a fine Thursday?
I'm doing very good. You're right. I think it's a sneaky good weekend. I think people kind of think, oh, racing dies off a little bit after Saratoga and Del Mar. I don't really think that's been the case this September. I think it's been great. I thought last week was interesting for sure. And look, you're right. I love having Santa Anita back, Somich. It's always great. No offense to Los Al, not the biggest fan when you have Del Mar and Santa Anita in the same state. I would prefer those two tracks, so excited to have it back.
Yeah, that's a big part for me. I stink at Los Al. I never get that place right. It's a very, very finicky track. It's a very, not to knock it. The racing is lower quality. It's just levels are lower there. You're getting a lot of those lower level claimers, which are tough in California. So excited to have Santa Anita back. And next week we get Keeneland back as well. This is kind of the weekend I start getting reinvigorated around the horse racing schedule because it's not just Santa Anita. Now we get to add Keeneland, Belmont at the Big A, a bunch of Breeders' Cup win in your ins. We've got Euros coming over that we're going to talk about a little bit later. So fun time in racing, but let's start where we finished last week with the Pennsylvania Derby. Baeza gets the job done. I thought it was a very impressive win, very professional win. I love how Barrios rides this horse. We talked about it, how we're both big fans of Pratt, but I just didn't love the rides that Pratt gave Baeza outside of the Derby ride. So excited to see Barrios back on him. Baeza now going to point to the Breeders' Cup Classic. What were your thoughts on the Penn Derby?
Yeah, he did exactly what he needed to do, and I couldn't have been more wrong in this race. I kind of underrated him a little bit, talking about Baeza, tried to go against him, and really at the top of the stretch, I was like, well, how many lengths am I going to lose by here? Because he's just running better than my pick, goal-oriented, and everybody else in that race as well. So stupid pick by me, but look, I thought this was super impressive. It really kind of reconfirms what we kind of thought about Sovereignty a little bit. Right. That he really hasn't been close to Sovereignty. And then, he finished within a length, but he never was really winning that race in the Jim Dandy 2 races back. But you look at what Baeza does to the rest of this field, and it's like, yeah, he's a cut above everybody but Sovereignty and journalism. And so it just kind of reconfirms that. I'm with you on Hector Berrios. I think it's so interesting that Flavien Prat, who for my money is the best jockey in the country, he really didn't do a great job on this specific horse, but Hector Berrios does. And I think it raised some eyebrows when Flavien Prat was not aboard this time. And I had a question from a friend about it. I said, I just think they prefer Berrios on this horse. And I can't argue with them. I thought Berrios ran a great race in the Jim Dandy. He rode a great race, I should say. And he just got beat by a better horse. This time, perfect ride. And then a dominant win. So good on Baeza. I think he becomes an underneath type of player for the Classic.
I was a Berrios truther, 5 years ago when he was at Gulfstream Park. And so it's been fun to see the rise of Hector Berrios riding very well in California. Now kind of jumping onto the more national stage here with his first real big-time horse that we have seen in this 3-year-old class with Baeza. I agree with you. I think Baeza is a player underneath in the Classic, which is going to be still a loaded race. We're going to have Sovereignty as a heavy favorite because, as you mentioned, he's been flattered by every single one of these 3-year-olds that has run back in this plethora of different races. So you got to respect what Sovereignty's been able to do, but now it's going to be the toughest field that he's going to face in the Breeders' Cup Classic. Before we move on, Magnitude. What was up with Magnitude, who I thought ran really well considering he didn't run his race, not on the lead. He kind of stalked off it and ran a good second here to Baeza. What do you do with Magnitude moving forward off this effort?
I'm glad you asked because, when I was watching that race live, I thought, he's going to run last. He just didn't look good at all. Yes. Right? And it's like, wow, this horse just totally is a flop. It's weird. Horrible. Okay, it's tough because I want to say horrible ride, but also, was it? Because maybe they said, hey, let's try something new. going on the front against these better horses didn't work. Maybe that was the plan. Just rate him off and see if he'll run on. Look, he finished up pretty well. He really didn't get to really run until the stretch. He was kind of bottled in the whole time. So, yeah, part of me wants to say, boy, what were you doing? Get him out in front. Maybe he wins. But the other part of me thinks, well, maybe that was the plan. Maybe they were kind of experimenting to see if he could sit off the pace. I thought he ran well. I'm with you. I thought he ran very well. Maybe he's just not as good as, like, say, Baeza, Sovereignty Journalism, that group. But maybe, when you go to the Goskers and the Goal Orientons of the world, maybe Magnitude is right there. And I thought it was a really good race. He gets second. He does pass Goal Oriented in the stretch. So, weird trip for sure. Not what we're used to seeing from him, but I thought he ran very well.
Any chance you think we see him in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile?
I think that's where we should see him.
He's not a classic horse. He should not be in the Classic.
I think they're probably what they should do is kind of gauge who's going to that race, right? How tough is that race realistically going to be? And if it looks like a spot that isn't that tough, I'd put him in it. If it looks like it's going to be loaded, I would wait, maybe take a conservative approach, maybe look at a race like the Clark later in November at Churchill Downs as a spot for him that would make sense. But if he's going to the Breeders' Cup, it's the mile. It is definitely the Dirt Mile.
Yeah, going to be interesting to see if he ends up there. Another horse we are going to see at the Breeders' Cup, Haulin Ice, who stamps the ticket there in a sprint race down at Gulfstream Park. We both talked about this, especially when Mystic Lake scratched. Haulin Ice is going to be lone speed. I thought even money was most likely 6-5, somewhere in that range of the price. I was shocked when Haulin Ice went off at 5-2. I had a nice little win wager. I texted you. You were at the Oklahoma game watching Oklahoma-Auburn. Crazy end to that with the Oklahoma cover with the safety.
Yep. And
you were like, what? 5-2 was the off price on Haulin Ice?
I thought you were lying at first because, yeah, look, honestly, it's crazy sometimes horse racing. I would have labeled that one of my best bets last week, but I thought that horse will be 3-5 by the time they leave the gate. And I didn't want to, give out a 3-5. I'll kind of go into a little bit of strategy on that when we talk about the best bets later. But, look, 5-2 was an insane price for a horse that we absolutely had the pace of the race right. The horse got out well on a lead all by herself, never really had to get out of first gear, very comfortable, and just kind of blew away from that field. We absolutely dissected that and said that's how that race was going to be run. And it was one of those races where we talked about last week. We were very confident of it because there just wasn't anybody else with other speed once the other Saffy Mystic Lake was going to run at Parks, who also won, by the way. But anyway, it was one of those rare gifts where you get a 5-2 price on a horse that should be 4-5, and it was never in doubt. Now, can she go win the Breeders' Cup? No, I don't think so. But we'll smile with our 5-2 Somich and play her again when she makes more sense.
Yeah, it's going to be the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint. That's a 7-furlong race. You have to stretch out further. There's going to be other speed in there. It's going to be a much more difficult spot for Haulin Ice. Probably a horse you want to fade in the Breeders' Cup after cashing a nice number of 5-2. Wanted to call it out because so often you hear in horse racing, oh, this horse got crushed at the end. Oh, the price wasn't what I was expecting. Oh, I got paid. My 5-1 went off at 3-1. This was a gift at 5-2. And so every now and then they do come along. You got to talk about them because there are some examples there where you're going to get a better price on a horse that you didn't necessarily expect to get that price on. We got to go to NYRA and talk about what happened at NYRA, because this was, we joke about some of the mistakes that they made at the Saratoga meet. All-timer at Belmont at the Big A, I believe it was last Saturday, the final race. On Talking Horses, which is their preview show, they show the 13 is scratched in the final race. And because of that, and 13 wasn't scratched, by the way. 13 was always in. But also, both of the handicappers on that show picked the 13. So they both had the 13 in their selections and talked about this horse. NYRA decides to have this horse run for purse money only because on a preview show that, I don't know, 3% of the people that bet the track watched, it was scratched. And so we don't have we have a purse money only horse in the last race. It affected the price on the eventual winner, the one who I really liked. So I was kind of ticked off about this. What's going on? How do you call a purse money only horse if it's just scratched on a preview show that a small fraction of the people that are betting the race actually watched?
I would love to know the ratings of that show. That's not a knock, but what happens is the Talking Horses preview show, if you don't know it, it happens 2 hours before the races start, maybe an hour and a half. But and it happens on the track feed, right? And so really, I'm not going to say nobody watches it, because I do think it's some, people watch it, but it's not at a good time slot during the racing day for people who are going to tune into the show, right? So I'd love to know the ratings. It's got to be low. I don't understand it. I just don't get it. They did this one other time where they listed a scratched horse on Equibase, which is where you go to see your scratches, for like 3 minutes, and then they corrected it, and then they ended up running for purse money only with that horse as well. I don't get it. I don't know, Mike, maybe it's a rule that's written in that they have to do it. But if they just kind of looked at that and made that decision, I mean, it's absolutely insane. And I don't understand what's going on up there and why this continues to be a problem, right? I mean, and that's the thing. It's consistently NYRA has issues, and they're different issues all the time that just keep popping up once a month. We feel like we're talking about NYRA and something like this. So I don't know. Again, I said it. It has to start somewhere, and I would start at the top and be like, why am I constantly getting this, right? Why is this always coming across my desk? You guys have made a mistake, and how can we fix it and fix it right now? But that doesn't seem to be happening because it just keeps going. But this was, I mean, it's insane, an insane thing.
To give Talking Horses some flowers here, they are on YouTube as well, and I know so they get some decent numbers on YouTube. So you do have people watching it, and I understand like it's a mistake there, but it was also the final race of the day, which happened 6 hours after Talking Horses was on. Right. And the Equibase one, I understand a little bit more, because right when those come out, people often will pull it up and you don't hit refresh. And so you don't realize that horse was actually incorrect there. And that also is, to me, a much more official way to announce a scratch versus a graphic being incorrect on a YouTube/track feed show that doesn't have the near distribution that Equibase does. So I understand the Equibase one a little bit more. This one made absolutely no sense to me. Like, I don't understand how this horse could possibly be purse money only. But here we are, purse money only there on the 13 horse at Belmont, the Big A there on Saturday. And look, you're right. It feels like every time one of these happens, it's NYRA. We're not talking about it at Gulfstream. We're not talking about it at Santa Anita. We're not talking about it at Del Mar. Not talking about it at Laurel. It's a NYRA track that is just kind of shooting themselves in the foot. So, we report on the good and the bad. This was the bad this week. What are we doing, NYRA? Let's get our stuff together here. We talked about Santa Anita a little at the Open. We're back at Santa Anita. For me, that is great. I again, not a huge Los Al fan, because I do terribly at the track. Let's just be honest. Like, I would love Los Alamitos if I crushed it. I don't crush it there. I don't bet there. I do like Santa Anita, and I do want to give some flowers here to our sponsor, First Bet, and what they are doing with the Sunset Pick 6 here. The final races, 3 races at Gulfstream, the final 3 races at Santa Anita, every single day the 2 of them are running, is going to have its own Pick 6, $1 denomination, 15% takeout. So low takeout. I like the denomination of $1, not 50 cents, and no computer-assisted wagering accounts are allowed to bet into it. So it is just a pool that is going to be horse players versus having to deal with all of these other aspects of it. So I want to just give a little tip of the cap there with this new bet that we've got at Gulfstream Park in Santa Anita. Final 3 races on each card, 15% takeout, no computer-assisted wagering. Good on you guys. I appreciate that we are calling out specific bets we are not allowing cause into the pools.
Well, and I think you're going to have to start doing it, and I think it was a great job of doing this. And you've got to start getting that regular horse player more enthusiastic about playing horses, right? And the computer-assisted wagers for a guy that plays day in and day out, like the 2 that you're watching right now, it becomes very frustrating, and you're always trying to look for ways to kind of get around it. And that's just the facts of it right now. And so it's nice to have this. It's nice to have the computer-assisted wagers out of this. I thought that was the big bonus as well. Also, and I know you're the same way as I am, I love Gulfstream Park, and I love Santa Anita. So it's like, okay, 2 of my favorite tracks we're going to combine on a bet here. They've done similar stuff before, but I think this is one of the best. I think you said it best. This is the most important one. $1 denomination. It kind of makes it to where your handicapping needs to be right. You need to be spot on with your opinions. You have to go a little bit shorter, and that eliminates people. And so that's a separator. If I'm sitting here thinking, well, I know a little bit more than, say, the average Joe, I can separate myself here and there in spots. So love it. Do more of it, right? But a great start is how I'll label it, in a very, very, listen, you're going to have to trailblaze this a little bit. We haven't had CAW problems for that long, I should say. So these tracks are going to have to do things like this. So this is a really nice thing.
Yeah, I would say we haven't had CAW problems as publicly discussed for that long. It's been an issue for a minute here, but it's nice that we're seeing some racetracks at least take a chance and have these wagers where it's just the general public that are playing. I also like it's the last 3 races on each card versus the last 3 at Gulfstream and middle 3 at Santa Anita. I realize there's going to be a gap between those races, but the quality of races is going to be higher that you're going to bet on if it's the last 3 versus, 2, 3, 4, or 4, 5, 6 at Santa Anita, because that's what would fit from a structural perspective or timing perspective. So excited to see that wager hit. And if you want to bet that wager or anything else over this weekend, make sure you head over to firstbet.com. FirstBet and VSiN have teamed up with a special offer. So if you open and deposit into a FirstBet account and you can get up to a $250 sign-up bonus with promo code VSiN250. So right out of the gate, $250 sign-up bonus, better than the offer on the website. Make sure you use code VSiN250. And if you then place $100 in wagers in your first 30 days, that will unlock a full VSiN Pro subscription for a year. That's an additional $240 value. If you're already a VSiN Pro subscriber, we'll give you another year on top of whatever you've already subscribed on. This offer ends Sunday, October 5th, so do not wait around if you want that full year of VSiN Pro subscription. To claim this offer, use promo code VSiN250 when you sign up in the FirstBet app over at firstbet.com. That's the number 1, STBET.com, and the promo code again, VSiN250. All right, Aaron, let's jump into our race previews for the weekend, and we're going to start at the aforementioned Belmont at the Big A in the Joe Hirsch Turf Classic here. Very fun race with a couple Europeans jumping over here. We don't have the first bet morning lines quite yet, but I'm going to go out on a limb here and say Rebels Romance, who may be the best turf horse in the world, is going to be your favorite in this spot. Do you agree with me? Is Rebel Romance your favorite?
Absolutely. I do believe Rebels Romance will be the favorite here in this race, and deservingly so. You mentioned it. Breeders' Cup Turf winner 2 out of the last 3 years. Since winning the Breeders' Cup Turf last year, this horse went overseas, whether it be at Dubai or over in Europe, and has just keep on winning 4 out of 6 since that race. So obviously comes over here with a big shot to win this one. This obviously a nice prep race for the Breeders' Cup Turf that'll be happening in November 1st. So look, he's tough to get around in this spot. We know his best race will beat these horses because we've seen him beat most of these horses with his best race. So I think he's going to be very, very tough in here. I like bringing him over here for a little bit of a prep. It tells me they're taking it pretty seriously, trying to get that third Breeders' Cup Turf. So all about Rebels Romance for me. When I look at this, it's like, okay, who can I play underneath to kind of juice this thing up? Because I think Rebels Romance is going to be extremely tough to beat.
You're not going to take Farbridge?
No.
You picked Farbridge last time. I thought you'd take Farbridge here.
I will not. No.
I think this is interesting. I agree with you. Look, Rebels Romance is the best horse in this race. Rebels Romance is a deserving favorite. I'm going to pick against Rebels Romance here. I'm going to go against the Europeans, which is something I rarely do. Give me the number 2 redistricting for Chad Brown, Flavian Pratt. You look through this race, and the only other possible speed horse is Farbridge. And let's see, who's riding Farbridge, Aaron? Oh, it's our friend Joel Rosario, who does not like to send these type of horses ever. And like we saw Farbridge make a middle move because he wanted to pull on the reins last time. I think Pratt on redistricting is going to get a very, very comfortable lead. Is that going to make enough of a difference to have a less talented horse than the 1 El Cordobles or the 3 Rebels Romance to get to the wire first? Maybe. And the maybe is enough for me, considering Rebels Romance doesn't have Buick on. Dettori going to ride, so Buick doesn't make the trip here. I'll take a little bit of a shot here with the number 2 redistricting, who I think ends up at 5-1, somewhere in that range here in this race. And if you don't agree with me, and you like, no, I'm not betting against Rebels Romance, I think a 3-2-1 cold try is not a bad idea. I think a 3-2 cold exacta is not a bad idea because redistricting is going to have the pace edge in this race, and that does matter. We do have some water in the turf. I think we should at least mention that. They're off the turf today. That may favor the Europeans here in this race if we do have a more of a yielding or a good track this weekend.
We see it a whole lot alike because I really love the number 2 redistricting, and you know that as well. We both have talked about this horse for a long time. 2 nice wins at Monmouth. You know, the United Nations, I thought he just took care of business. He ran so good in that race. And you're right. I do think he is the horse that's going to be out there towards the front. The problem I have, and I think a big key you talked about, Frankie Dettori is aboard Rebels Romance, not William Buick. I think with William Buick, we kind of know Rebels Romance would be within range. You were pretty confident, and he's going to suck, redistricting under. I just believe that would be the case. does a Tory kind of get goofy, Sometimes
Yep.
you see him do it, especially late in his career like this, and give kind of a weird ride and get beat. I mean, that's possible. I just think Rebels Romance is just a lot better horse. I'm with you. 3-2-1 is how I went. Well, you went 2-3-1. I went 3-2-1. I'm with El Cordorbes ran very, very well. I do think it's kind of concerning that Flavian Pratt is riding the number 2 redistricting. I see why, because it's Chad Brown. And listen, Flavian Pratt's got a lot of mounts for Chad Brown. Yep. But we talked about it last week when we were talking about El Cordorbes coming over here. The big reason he won that race last time out up at Saratoga was Pratt and how good of a ride he gave. It was a very evenly matched field, and Pratt just kind of outrode him. He's not going to have that luxury. Now, Johnny Velasquez is not a bad rider, but boy, I would rather have Flavian Pratt. So, all that being said, I'm with you on the 2. I really like redistricting. I just don't think he's going to beat Rebels Romance.
Yeah, and the one I thought last time out, you mentioned the ride. I thought that was the difference. That was a very funky race. We saw Nation's Pride early. We mentioned Farbridge kind of pushing a pace that was interesting as well. And Pratt was just so patient and just rode that horse so well to be able to push the button at the correct time. And that made all the difference in the world. Johnny Velasquez, JV, I love him as a jockey. I think he's still one of the better priced jockeys. And he's an older gentleman now, but he's still getting the job done. You can get prices home with him. I'm not surprised Pratt stayed with redistricting because I do think that this is one of those, hey, redistricting was always running here. And the El Cordobes news was about a week and a half ago that he was coming over. So my guess is Pratt was already committed. I wouldn't read too much into the jockey switch. But I also think that redistricting just has this pace edge here. So number 2, redistricting for me in the Joe Hirsch Turf Classic. Number 3, Rebels Romance for Aaron. If you want to play a 3-2 exacta, I don't hate that at all. If you do disagree with me here that one of the Euros are going to win, 3-2-1 Colt Try. Also pretty interesting there as well. Let's switch our tack to the Midwest here. Head over to Churchill Downs and take a look at the Lukas Classic. This is race number 10 on Saturday's card, grade 2. And a very interesting field. And we take a look at here at the first bet morning line. Your favorite is going to be, well, a favorite horse of ours, Mystic Dan, Kentucky Derby winner, returning here to Churchill Downs, returning to the dirt as well after a failed experiment on the turf. 5-2 on the morning line on Mystic Dan. I'm assuming you're not going to pick Mystic Dan, although this is a little bit easier than what he has been facing in the past on the dirt. Who do you like here in the Lukas Classic?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it is a good spot for Mystic Dan. I don't mind anybody that's going to play him in this spot. I would try to talk you out of it in other spots he's been in. This one, I do kind of agree. He probably should be the favorite, but no, I'm not going to play Mystic Dan on top. I'm going to go to the number 2 hit show in this race. Hopefully we get 7-2. That would be great. This is an incredible horse when you think about it. By the way, last year he did win the Lukas Classic by a quarter of a length. He went on to win the Fayette after that as well. This is a horse that's always a grade 2 or grade 3 type that's like, yeah, he shows up with a big chance. He won the Dubai World Cup back in April in just shocking fashion at a huge number. He came back, he ran 5th in the Stephen Foster. Then he was the first ever and probably only ever horse to win the Dubai World Cup and make his second start after at Mountaineer. That's right. This horse ran at Mountaineer last time out. He did win. He actually faced a pretty good local horse. It was a hell of a race, and he was able to get the job done. I think he runs better here third time out after kind of the layoff from Dubai. I think this is a really good spot for him. Look, I just couldn't do it with Mystic Dan. I don't trust Banishing going this long. I know he won the Charlestown Classic at the distance, but when he's faced a little bit better and a little bit normal racetrack, he hasn't ran quite as well at 1 1/8. So it's hit show for me. Hopefully we get 7-2. I think that's about the right price on him. I think he might go down to about 3-1. I still like him though at that price. So the number 2 hit show for me.
I thought this race was exceptionally difficult because when I went through all these horses, there is not a single one that I trust that I actually believe is going to show up and run their best race. It feels like there's going to be some variance here, some randomness to how this goes. The 2 speed horses, Willie D's on the inside, and the number 4 horse, Prince of Power, I think are both cheap speed, so it makes it hard for me to make a case for a horse to go gate to wire. Banishing, I agree with you. I think the distance could be a little bit of an issue. I'm going to go to my old friend here. Give me the number 3, Rattle and Roll. 5-1 on the morning line. I find it interesting that Rattle and Roll is in this race, considering Kenny McPeak has Mystic Dan in this spot. Rattle and Roll loves Churchill Downs. 9 races at Churchill, has hit the board in 8 of those 9, including 4 wins. It's a very lightly raced horse. Last time we saw this horse was over in Meydan in that Dubai World Cup that Hit Show did win. I don't want to take anybody who I think is going to be short or could get bet down. I don't think Rattle and Roll takes very much money. I think you're going to get every bit of that 5-1. There are races that fit in the back class for this horse. So I'm going to take a little bit of a shot here, and it's a very lukewarm opinion. Let me make that clear. Like I could take this arm here. I could take Banishing here. I could take Hit Show here. I just decided to take the horse was the best price that I thought had a legitimate chance to win, and that was the number 3 Rattle and Roll for me.
Yeah, even though we don't have the same win picks in these races so far, we've got similar-ish opinions. I'm with you on Rattle and Roll. This is the horse I'm going to use for sure. I almost put him on top. The only thing you worry about with him, and you know this as well, he is coming off that long layoff, and so that is a little bit of a worry. You do look back, though, he hasn't ran poorly off layoffs in the past, so that is a very good thing as well. But, he went over to Meydan and ran in that Dubai World Cup. It's been a long time, a long trip back over, obviously. I just am a little worried that it's going to be next time out is where you see his best race. But to your point, I think it sets up well. The speed is there, but it's cheap, and this is a horse that's going to come from out of it. And does his absolute best race have to be had for him to win? Meaning, if he runs his B race, is it good enough? I think it's possible. So I'm with you on him. He does make sense. I'm also with you kind of just on the thought process is, if Mystic Dan and Banishing are the 2 top choices, let's try to get around them with somebody. I'm with you on the idea of that as well.
Yeah, I love the workouts too. I'm not usually a huge workout guy for these older horses, but when you're coming back from a three race international trip and you're taking some time off, the fact that 46-4, 5 of 124 horses on September 20th, a bullet on September 13th, a bullet on September 6th for a horse that not really known for training like that. Like that tells me that we are probably in good condition. It makes me willing to kind of jump aboard here, considering it is first off the layoff, first time back from an international race. 2 things that I don't love necessarily, but I do think I get all the 5-1. That to me is the other part of this, is that you're worried that Hit Show gets bet down. I kind of agree. Hit Show ends up going off as the second choice in this race behind Mystic Dan. I have no fear that we're going to see the number 3 horse Rattle and Roll get back down. So Lukas Classic, race number 10, Churchill Downs on Saturday. Number 2 Hit Show, 7-2 for Aaron. Number 3 Rattle and Roll sitting at 5-1 for me. Look, if you like horse racing, if you like betting sports, make sure you check out a VSiN Pro subscription. It's your edge in both the horse racing markets as well as across all of the sports. You got best bets every single day, college football, NFL. You got some Ryder Cup bets coming up this weekend. Fun little event there at Bethpage Black. And we're right in time here for the Major League Baseball playoffs as well. You can try it for just $9.99 for your first month. Head over to vsin.com/subscribe. $9.99 for your first month, or check out all of the subscription options there as well, Aaron. And with that being said, let's head out to Santa Anita here, the track on the West Coast, the great race place back in our lives, and we'll kick it off here with the Goodwood Stakes at Santa Anita, race number 9 on Saturday's card, the Grade 1 Goodwood Stakes, I should say. Drew a really interesting field. So we've got your morning line favorite brought to you by First Bet here, Full Serrano, who's sitting at 2-1. Second choice in First Serrano here, sitting at 2-1, who came back last time out, ran very well. That was the first time off of a long layoff. Previously, we saw this horse running in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile there, getting the win at Del Mar. Has never touched the Santa Anita Dirt, which is interesting because this horse has run 4 times in California. Your favorite on the morning line going to be the number 4, First Mission, who hasn't won since April. Ran second in the last 2 races. That being said, both graded stakes efforts there. What are you doing here with this race, which I also think is a pretty wide open affair?
Yeah, it definitely is a wide open race, no doubt about it. I think there is a lot of different ways you can go. I'm just going to lean on the number 7 Full Serrano in this spot, though. I think there's a couple of very good signs. And the first one you talked about came back last time out and really rolled. It should have rolled, right? It was just an allowance race there at Del Mar, but he did it so easily. 2 races back, of course, the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile winner, big upset winner last year there. Horse ran second in the Pacific Classic last year as well, so we know the horse can stretch out and run just fine. I love him in this spot. I think, coming in on good form for sure, coming in to kind of prep for the Breeders' Cup here, good spot. Also, you look, and Juan Hernandez is aboard. he rides for Baffert almost every race, and he rode the 3 and the 5 Priveman and Nevada Beach last time out for Baffert. He did not choose those horses, and he went with Full Serrano. That is a very, very good sign to me. I'm not scared of First Mission, really. I think Full Serrano's best race is better than First Mission, so I'm not really scared of him. And everybody else kind of underwhelms me, so I went with the number 7 Full Serrano in this spot.
So let's talk Full Serrano a little bit here. What do you think the long-term plans are? Is he pointing back to the dirt mile, or do you think this is a horse that's considering the Classic based on the fact that we're stretching out to 1 1/8 miles here?
So very interesting question, and I would have said the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile for sure for this horse. However, I vote in a Breeders' Cup Classic poll every single week, and they give us a kind of a drop-down menu of horses to vote on. Full Serrano was on the list this week, and so I did some double checking, and they're like, yeah, if it goes well in the Goodwood, they're kind of thinking to try the Classic this year. I was like, that's very interesting. So I think, to answer your question, I'll let you know Saturday night, because I think this is the pivotal race for him. If he wins this one and he looks pretty good, I think he's going Classic. If he's not great in this race, I think they'll back up and go to the dirt mile.
Yeah, so Full Serrano has run 1.25 miles before. That was in the Pacific Classic in 24, ran second in that race to Mixto, set the pace and faded off of it. Does have a 1.25 mile victory in Argentina on the turf before coming over here, but that was against much lesser. I like this horse more at 1 mile. Like, I kept going back and forth, and I think 1 mile is the right distance, not 1 1/8 miles, not 1.25 miles for First Serrano. And then I'm like, okay, well, let's tell the story. How does First Serrano win this race? Probably gate to wire, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not sure gate to wire is the best chance here, because you've got Priveman, who is very fast, stretching out from 1 mile here. You've got Gaming, who is very fast, stretching out from 1 mile here. You've got First Mission, who has tactical speed. I think we're going to have a pretty hot pace. And if the pace is going to be pretty hot, and I don't love First Serrano, and I'm not a huge First Mission fan, why don't we go a little price hunting here? Give me the number 5, Nevada Beach here, 12-1 on the morning line. 3-year-old by Omaha Beach for Bob Baffert. I don't think the distance is going to be any issue. Won the last time in the Los Al Derby there at 1 1/8 miles. We haven't seen this horse since June. And I think that's one of the bigger issues here. But I think the price is right. I think it is very interesting that Baffert chose this spot when you've already got Gaming and Priveman in here who are shorter prices. Mike Smith does get some very good Baffert rides, so I don't mind the fact that Mike Smith lands here. This horse has been training well and training long, so 7 furlong, 6 furlong, 6 furlong works, not something you see a lot from Bob Baffert. And I think the pace is right for someone to be able to come from off it, and I think Nevada Beach is the horse that has the most upside to be able to make that big run late. But it's fast enough early that I don't think it's going to be, we're way out of it here. Now, it's a class test. You're jumping up here. I get all of that. The 12-1 price. When I don't like First Mission, I don't like Full Serrano, the 12-1 price to me is a separator. So I'm going to go with the 5 Nevada Beach. Did you consider the other Baffert, or was this one that never even made the list for you?
I like him the best out of the 3 Bafferts. I'm not a believer in Priveman. Gaming is just kind of, I don't know. I've kind of given up on him a little bit. I gave up on him a long time ago, actually. Nevada Beach is the one that it's like, okay, maybe he can kind of be the now horse for Baffert. I don't mind the layoff, really. His numbers, talking about Baffert, pretty good off this kind of layoff, so that doesn't really bother me. Mike Smith getting aboard, honestly, is a little bit of a, I don't know.
I know. The people are polarized around Mike Smith, and I know there's some people that are just not a fan, and he's been better on the Baffert speed horses versus the Baffert closers, and that is a big concern for me.
I just, at this point, I don't think you need to be polarized. I just think he is who he is at this point. He's just not that great anymore, and he's old. Like, it's nothing against him. I think in his heyday, look, I think he was one of the best jockeys in the world. I called
John Velasquez an older gentleman, and you're just going with it. He's old with Mike Smith.
Well, here's the bottom line on it, right? I mean, Johnny V just rides better than him now, and a lot of people do. What I'm getting at is, if Nevada Beach wins, he's just going to have to be the best horse. I don't think Mike Smith moves a horse up anymore. I don't think he's awful, and I don't want to sit here and bash. Again, one of the greatest of all time, and a guy I've loved for years. But it is. I play horses as well, and it just is what it is. He's not a difference maker, that's for sure. But look, you could get worse, and so I don't think he's going to get this horse beat. I just don't think he moves him up that much. Here's the deal. I think Priveman is kind of the key to the race in a couple different ways. He's definitely the fastest horse. is he there to kind of be cheap speed to set it up for Nevada Beach? Or do they think he actually has a shot here, right? I kind of think he's cheap. I really do. In a spot like this, I don't think he's really serious. I'm interested to see what Hernandez does with Full Serrano in this situation, because because let's not forget, right? Hernandez has been on Privman, right? A bunch. So does he just kind of, go let him do whatever he wants? We'll ride our own race here and I'll just sit in second. Or will he kind of think, he's serious and kind of chase him a little? I kind of feel like they're going to just let Privman do whatever he wants because they think in the back of their mind, we'll catch Privman, right? That's how I look at it.
Yeah, if that's the case, Privman does become more dangerous. But the Full Serrano's win in the Breeders' Cup was second. He was tracked early and then able to take over down the lane. We'll see if he's able to do that at a mile and an eighth. That, to me, the big concern there. I want to give one other horse a shout-out here. The number 2 horse, Ultimate Gamble, is one I went back and forth on. I ended up not putting this horse on the ticket for me, but I think this is a interesting entry here. 5-year-old that sold for $1.75 million at auction and has always showed talent, but never really realized that talent. Broke the maiden second start at Santa Anita, kind of was living in that N1X, N2X allowance level, jumped up to the Pacific Classic last time out, a 1.25 mile race, and got beat, ran third in that spot, lost by 9 3/4 lengths, but did so to Fierceness and Journalism, who I think we would both agree would be pretty heavily favored in this spot. Any interest in the 2 at all, even if it's underneath on Ultimate Gamble?
Yeah, underneath maybe makes a little bit of sense. It's not what I'm going to use, to be honest with you. I do like Mark Glatt quite a bit as a trainer. I like Kimura as a rider there in Southern California as well, but I don't know. I feel like I would rather take like a Nevada Beach than an Ultimate Gamble in this spot. If you're kind of looking for that horse where the pace is going to have to melt down for them to make a little bit of an impact, I'm with you. Like, look, last time out, it was definitely the best race of this horse's career, but it was also, Mike, it was like a situation like somebody has to run third, right? Yeah. Like those horses behind Fierceness and Journalism, they really weren't doing much. But I will say this, Mark Glatt putting this horse in the Pacific Classic and then putting him in the Goodwood, he's not dumb. Like, he's putting him here for a reason. He doesn't just throw horses in there and take shots. So he's showing confidence, and maybe that's enough to get him underneath on your tickets. He's just not for me.
Yeah, it feels like he turned a corner. And there was kind of choppy from a buyer perspective, from a time form perspective through that 4-year-old season. We've seen him improve during the 5-year-old season in every single race so far. And we've seen Glatt get more aggressive with the placement as well. So a little interested in Ultimate Gamble. 71-1 last time out, 8-1 on the morning line. A little bit of an issue for me. This is an easier spot, but that is a big odds adjustment there for Ultimate Gamble. So number 5, Nevada Beach, 12-1 on the morning line for me. Number 7, Full Serrano, 2-1 on the morning line for Aaron. That is the Grade 1 Goodwood, race number 9 from Santa Anita's Saturday card. Let's rewind a little bit and head down to race number 4 from Santa Anita's Saturday card, the City of Hope Mile, Grade 2 over the turf course. And look, when we look at these first bet morning line odds, it's the number 3 Johannes, even money here, a horse that's been very, very good. Tried the 4-star Dave last time at Saratoga, decides to come back to California and come back to Santa Anita, where just simply is dominated on this racetrack. A perfect 7-4-7 over the Santa Anita turf course. 6 efforts of going a mile on the turf, 4 of those a win, hit the board in every single one except for that 4-star Dave there in Saratoga. Do you try and get around Johannes, or is this just too good of a horse in this spot?
No, he's too good of a horse. I go to Johannes every single day, and I do want to talk about that 4-star Dave last time out. That was a horrific ride by Umberto Rispoli, who's pretty good at giving those from time to time, Mr. Somich. But you know where he doesn't usually? Here at Santa Anita, and specifically on the Santa Anita turf course. He's usually very, very good. So you look at that 4-star Dave and you go, man, 9th in that race? Are you kidding me? Go back and watch it. I mean, this was horrific. So I like this spot obviously better anyway. That was a first start off of a layoff, first start of the year. That was a really tough ask for that horse. Now you get back second start off the layoff where this horse excels. You laid it out perfectly. And let's not forget, this horse almost won the Breeders' Cup Mile last year at Del Mar. Only got beaten by 3/4 of a length, ran very well. I think gets back to one of his best efforts. I think that makes him really, really tough to beat. So, yeah, I'm not going to try to beat Johannes in this spot. Kind of just like I didn't try to beat Rebels Romance. I kind of view them as the same. They're big-time standouts in this one.
Yeah, still not happy Intellect didn't win the 4-star Dave, but we don't need to talk about that right now. Intellect is one of those horses, man. That horse owes me so much money, running second in that race as well as the race prior. I agree with you, Johannes, whatever you want to say. Clearly a standout here in this spot. I tried to get around it. If you've watched this show before, I don't like picking favorites. I'm going to go ahead and take this one. Even money is probably a pipe dream. You're probably staring down more of a 3 to 5 type of price here. And if that's the case, not a bet I would make to win, but then it introduces, okay, what do we do from the exotics? How do we play exactas? How do we play triples? Who do we want to use underneath of Johannes here to be able to juice up the value? So I'll let you go first here. If I gave you 100 Mike bucks, told you to bet either a cold exact or cold try, what are you doing?
Yeah, I think it comes down to who do you think can kind of last on the front end. I think there's going to be a couple of horses there on the front end that are going to try to take this thing gate to wire, or at least to be close. I looked at this and thought, can the number 4 Final Boss hold on? And maybe, now that we're backing up to a mile, can Final Boss kind of get towards the front and hold on? And I said, yeah, I think he can. So a 3-4 cold exacta for me in this spot. I did kind of want to get around the 5. Listen, I know the 5 could even win the race. Very nice horse. But I just think the 4 Final Boss a little bit better of a price. And I think the pace is going to kind of favor Final Boss a little bit. So a 3-4 cold exacta for me.
Yeah, I'm interested in the cutback on Final Boss. I am going to put the 5 Almendaris in second because of the 6 Cabo Spirits in this race, though. I do think Cabo Spirit presses Final Boss and makes his life a little bit more difficult, and I don't think that Final Boss just lets the horse go. I think that would actually be the right thing to do because we did see Final Boss stalk and win at the $100,000 optional claimer level 2 back at Del Mar. If I knew Final Boss wasn't going to send, then I would actually say Final Boss in second. I think the 6 and the 4 kind of beat each other up a little early. I think this runs 3-5-4 cold. So I'd play a try 3-5-4 Johannes over Almendares and Final Boss in this spot. It should be a fun race. Probably going to be the favorite winning this. The number 3 Johannes for me, the number 3 Johannes for Aaron. That's even money right now on the morning line there in the City of Hope, the 4th race from Santa Anita's Saturday card. Now, before we flip over to the best bets, make sure that if you are betting any of these, you head over to firstbet.com, use promo code VSiN250 as your sign-up bonus. You get a $250 bonus, as well as if you bet $100 in the first 30 days, you get a 1-year subscription as a VSiN Pro member, $240 value. So make sure you're using firstbet.com or the FirstBet app for all of your wagers there. And with that said, Aaron, let's head into the best bets. I am going to steal your thunder and go first because I've got a Friday race and you've got 2 Saturday races. So we'll go in chronological order here. We're going to kick it off with race number 7 at Santa Anita, 6 furlongs over the turf course, $20,000 N1X at the state level for the ladies here. And I'm going to go to the number 7 Willow Cove, who is coming back off of a long layoff for Mike Pipey. Won last time out with JJ Hernandez aboard. That was in August 2024. So been almost a year since we've seen this horse. But I love the fact that Hernandez wants to stick around here. I like the fact that we've got tactical speed. And now coming into the 5-year-old season, we're also seeing the workouts tick up. Specifically, the last 2 over 4 furlongs were both very good over a synthetic track, which translates well over to turf. This horse is just bred to turf sprint. I like the 6.5 down the hill as well because you've got tactical speed. That this horse also closed last time, going 5 furlongs at Del Mar. And I'm going to get my price, Aaron, because the number 9, Lady Gregory, is going to be a short-priced favorite here. 3-2 on the morning line. Probably goes off a little short than that. So I like the fact that I'm going to get at least 7-2 here on the number 7 Willow Cove, race number 7 on Friday's Santa Anita card. Who'd you have on top in this spot?
Yeah, I like that pick quite a bit here. I'm kind of with you. You kind of want to try to get around the big favorite if you can. I haven't made a final decision on this Friday race here at Santa Anita. I'll do that after the show ends here on Thursday. I kind of right now, I like the number 6 Freya a little bit. I do like the number 7 Willow Cove a little bit as well. Those are kind of the 2 horses. I don't know that I want to play that favorite. So the 6 or the 7, kind of where I'm looking at this point.
Yeah, I was the 4, 6, and the 7 were the 3 that I wanted to play against the 9 with here. But the 7 Willow Cove here, best bet for me to kick off the show. Let's fast forward to Saturday in Churchill Downs. We've got the Grade 3 ACAC. Grade 3, not big enough for the weekend previews. Tell you got a pretty good weekend of racing here. This is race number 8 on Saturday's card, going 1 mile over the Churchill Downs dirt course. Aaron, your best bet comes from this spot.
Yeah, I'm going to go Churchill Downs Race 8, the number 1 most wanted. And so I'm going to put him in here. I am going to give you a straight exacta as well in case the price gets too low, because that is possible. But I'll talk about most wanted first. Look, I thought the race last time out on the Forgo, he turned the corner with the lead. They just went a little bit too fast up front, and he was fading and got 5th. But this is a much, much easier spot. The Forgo last time out at Saratoga was a very, very good race. I like this spot for him. I also like a mile versus 7 furlongs as well. I think his best races have been of a mile. You want to talk about 2 races back right here at Churchill Downs, running a mile in an allowance race. That was an excellent race from him. If he runs anything close to that, I think he gets the job done pretty easily. So I do like him quite a bit in this spot. I'm going to go underneath and go with a 1-5 straight exacta if the one's price gets a little too low with Tumbarumba, the 5 horse. He's ultra consistent. He's not an overly great horse, but you can count on him to run a good race. He's a grinded out type of horse. I think he's a really nice horse to put in second. So 1-5 straight exacta for me if the number 1 most wanted goes below playable win odds.
Yeah, I think the one will go below playable win odds. 3 for 3 at a mile. I think you're probably going to see 3 to 5, somewhere in that range. And I agree with you. I think Tumbarumba, who is probably the next classiest horse in this field, is the horse that I would want in second place there. So best bet for Aaron there, Churchill Downs, race number 8, the grade 3 ACAC, the number 1 most wanted. If the price gets too low, a little 1-5 exacta action there. I'm heading back to Santa Anita, heading to the Saturday card here, and the race number 10, the John C. Harris, a grade 3 going down the hill, 6.5 furlongs on the turf. Give me the New York horse who ships in here to try the hill course for the first time. The number 1 Warming, 7-2 on the morning line. It's a horse that debuted sprinting, and I thought sprinted very, very well in both of those Aqueduct races there, the Belmont at the Big A races, and then stretches out. And I won the first race, which was at Delaware, a little bit lower level, then goes into the Belmont Oaks, takes on Fionn, Nitrogen, faces Mayday Ready last time in a race where Mayday Ready went gate to wire, setting a slow pace, and the final time was very fast. They went 22 and 2 seconds for the final quarter of a mile. That is incredibly quick. This horse had trouble in that race. Now we get out to California, where I think that the level of competition drops a little bit, yet the price is right here, sitting at the 7-2 price. So give me the number 1 Warming, race number 10, the John C. Harris at Santa Anita on Saturday, 7-2 on the morning line. I know you looked at this one. Who do you like?
Great pick. That's my top pick as well. I think the only kind of question mark on this thing, obviously, is how will the horse handle the downhill, right? Because it is the downhill turf course, going 6.5 furlongs here at Santa Anita. I think I'm with you. I think the sprinting is going to be fine for this horse, but going down the hill and crossing over to from the turf to the dirt, back to the turf. I mean, it's a question mark for sure. But I look at this field and it's like, yeah, if she handles it, she should win. I think she's better than the rest of this group, so I'm with you. I hope we get the price of 7-2, a little bit of a leeway for that unknown that I just talked about. But yeah, I think this is a good pick.
And we got to give a shout out to number 9 Eiffel in this race as well. Our buddy, we have a group chat going with Geist, who's Geist Pat. You can find him over on Twitter. He owns horses with Red Feather Racing. I know they are incredibly high on Eiffel. I know the last 2 races were incredibly disappointing for Eiffel after that debut where she looked awesome. I don't mind her at 8-1. I have her picked second in this spot, and I don't generally pick the horses that he owns because I don't want to be a little bit of a homer there, but I do think Eiffel has a legit shot in this race.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned it. I do think Eiffel is a top 4 candidate for sure in this one. Really disappointing last time out specifically. I thought the race 2 back wasn't so bad. Last time out, it's like, man, I don't know. I like the idea of, hey, let's cut this horse back. We saw her go 6 furlongs at Santa Anita. That was not down the hill, but we saw her run that distance and run very well. So let's do this. Let's put her in this spot. I think it makes sense. If she handles it, I think she's going to be okay as well. And I'm with you. 8-1 seems pretty high on this horse because, look, I don't think there's any world beaters in here, right? Even Warming, who we both have on top, I don't think that horse is like something really great. So I think Eiffel makes sense in this spot as well.
Yeah, back-to-back 7-5 races prior to this, now getting 8-1. I like that price adjustment there, cutting back to sprinting where she did get her first victory. Let's go to your final best bet. This is from the Gallant Bloom, race number 8 at Belmont at the Big A, a grade 2 that we did not cover. Again, phenomenal day of racing this Saturday. And this is 6.5 furlongs over the dirt course And we don't have morning lines yet, so not positive on the price here. But who do you like in this spot, Aaron?
Well, I'm going to go with the number 1 R Disaster here in the 8th race at Belmont Big A on Saturday. And look, who does this horse really remind you of, Somich? Because it kind of reminds me of Haulin Ice a little bit, right?
Yep.
Lone Speed, Saffy Joseph. We're sprinting on the dirt. Going to be tough to beat our Disaster in this spot. I don't know the odds. I don't think the horse is going to be unplayable, though. I'm thinking about 8-5 because it is kind of a, it's a 9-horse field, and there are some pretty solid connections in here, including the horse just to the outside, the number 2 in Pell. But for me, it's our Disaster. Takes him gate to wire. Especially if the track has a little moisture in it. I really like playing horses on the lead up on the NYRA circuit, no matter which track it is. If there's a little bit of moisture in the track and they get to the front, I just don't see any other speed. Maybe the 9 Sunday Girl, but I don't think that horse is near as fast as our Disaster. Maybe Sensei Parole, the 8 horse, but again, I don't think she's as fast as our Disaster. So give me the number 1 our Disaster to take him gate to wire.
Yeah, Sensei Parole is the one horse that I'm a little interested in here. I think our Disaster probably your favorite, and probably deserving favorite in this spot, considering the past races that we see on the card and the class that this horse has competed at. Multiple grade 2 or grade 3s where he's run second, ran second in the grade 2 honorable miss as well. I'm surprised you're seeing Brown put Sensei Parole in here. He's not an overly aggressive trainer, especially on the dirt. This horse won very impressively at Saratoga in 2024 and then came back in 2025 and ran second to Roswell, a horse for Belmont that is just one of those Saratoga Mott horses, and ran well. The buyer regressed, but Brown deciding to throw this horse in a graded stakes I thought was a little interesting. So I want to see what the price is on Sensei Parole before I jump on the R Disaster bandwagon.
Yeah, and I think it's very likely they could come in 1-8 or 1-2-8, something like that. I think those are your 3. I was there live and in person when Sensei Parole ran last time out. That was the day after the Travers. I was extremely hungover, but I do remember this race because it was later in the day. And she turned for home like a horse that was going to roll. And like I said, Roswell just catches her. So maybe she's got a little bit more in the tank this time, second off of the long layoff. The one to worry about the most, for sure, the number 8.
It's going to be an absolute blast at the track this weekend. We've got graded stakes all over the place. Aaron, what card on Saturday is your favorite of the bunch?
Man, what a great question. I think it's Santa Anita. I really do. I'm very excited for Rebels Romance up at Belmont at the Big A. I think Santa Anita, like start to finish, it looks really good, and it's just nice to have it back. I like Santa Anita this time of year as well. So I'm most excited about Santa Anita, but I think Belmont at Big A close second.
Yeah, I'm excited for Santa Anita, too. It's going to be a fun card, graded stakes up and down, interesting spots as well. And I think it's going to be a competitive card as well. I don't like Friday's Santa Anita card. It's a little chalky. Saturday's Santa Anita card, I think we could find a few more prices. Thank you very much for checking out VSiN at the track here, no matter where you got the content, whether it be Apple or Spotify in the podcast version or at VSiN Live over on YouTube if you want to see our 2 beautiful faces. Make sure you smash the thumbs up button if you got this far over at YouTube, and make sure you subscribe, rate, and review to the podcast so you can help us get to the most ears possible. Want to give a shout out to our super producer, Matt Deutsch, who had some time off this week but still crushed it, making sure we were ready to go here on a Thursday. For Aaron Halterman, I'm Mike Somich. This was VSiN at the track. Good luck with all your bets.
This is VSiN at the track.